Well, it's that time. What's going on, everybody? Back out in the garage again. We're trying to do, well, I'm by myself tonight. I am going to try and fab up some pieces to fill in here, so we can start working on our tubular front end. So I'm going to make some pieces for the bottoms first, because they're going to be a little more difficult and tricky, because of where we brought the boxes out to. It's a little bit off of the strut tower, so we're going to come up and then I'm going to make it all in one piece. I kind of started on a template. Look at that, a template already. This is what I got. I'm going to make one for this side too, but I just took some cardboard. Actually, I had a scrap piece of metal over there that I kind of used for a guide. So this is what we're looking at. I'm going to lay that in there. Like I said with the gap, it's got about a finger's worth on the back. So what I'm going to try to do is, once I get it in there, we'll see how the fitment is. I might weld this and then just take a hammer to it to get that angle down. And I just want it to kind of lay in there like that. That way I'll follow the same seam. Now you can't really see it. Excuse the shaking for a second. Alright, so what I'm looking at is where the plate is, there's a gap there. And like I said, it's about a finger's worth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay that piece in there, and then I'm going to try and weld it, and then I'll try and bend it back so it lays over. And then from the front, it'll be all one solid piece. So it'll just blend in with the tower. And this part, I'll either grind that off. Yeah, it's probably the easiest thing, so because I don't want to overlap just a little corner. So I'll trim that off, and then I'll just weld this whole seam up all the way across. That way it's going to be even. So whenever you look at it, it'll have an even seam all the way around. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this side. I haven't made a template yet. I will. I got some cardboard over there on the weld table, and that's what I'm going to do. So that's where we're at. I'm going to make one of these for the other side, and then I'll get the metal out, retrace it on the metal, cut it out, and we'll go from there. So I'll put you back on the stand, and we'll get going. Oh, shit. Maybe I'll put you back on the stand. Alright. Check this, see how bad it is. Okay. There we go. Okay. So this, I said scrap metal, but this actually came out of the kit that Scott Fab sent. It's supposed to be an end cap for the piece. We didn't end up using these because I didn't like the way they lined up and it was thinner. So I ended up using a little different steel, and we made our own ends. So we ended up not using these. So what I did is I just kind of, I made it a little bigger than what it was, but I used this because of it, they cut it and it's like a perfect 90-degree angle. So that's what I used for my template. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other piece for this side. So but how this plate angles up like that, it almost kind of goes straight and then angles. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a gradual slope from the peak to the end. That way when you look at it from the front, it doesn't have a line and then kind of goes at an angle. It's just a gradual slope, so it caps it off real nice. So all you'll see is it go from the tower and then it'll slope down. So it should look okay. So I'm trying to debate here. Because of where I welded, that lips out a little bit. I don't know if I want to stick the plate on the end sides of the welds and then just kind of bridge for the end of my plate, and then I can fill that corner. That's kind of what I was looking for, how I I measured this side. I actually laid it on the inside of the welds because the welds that I put in for that cap, I got a corner there and then I welded and it filled real nice, and it's a better joint that way. So, in my opinion. So what I'm thinking about doing is I'll lay that plate on the inside of these welds. That way I'll have a cap again, another cap, and then I can fill it. That way, instead of having an edge and another edge for another plate, it'll all be just one smooth plate, and then it'll go up and join. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Me likey. Grab your seat. Okay, so how I was talking about the lip, see how, maybe, okay, there you go. You kind of see how that corner, everything's kind of lipped out. That way, when I did that, I left it a little, I recessed this plate in a little bit. That way when I weld it, I'd get a good corner and a good bond on that. So what I'm going to do is when I lay this in, I laid it to where inside of that weld there, so that plate will stick out, and then I'll be able to, whoops, sorry, it's kind of hard to do this, I don't have 3 hands. Let's see if I can set it on my leg for a second. That's kind of, so I'm going to lay that down, and you can kind of see where it's going to sit. So I'll lay that in, it'll almost recess in there. Well, when I top it and I weld it, it should seam that. But now that I think about it, I should almost go flush. Should probably go flush. Or over. I'd rather stay skinny. That way I can use that for filler. And I can go over to the corner. So when I run my bead, that plate will stick out, and then it'll fill that gap, so the corner will be like that. I'll do the same thing on the outside. And then it'll run that same line as that upper plate right there. So it'll lay in there. Sorry for the jump to the camera. I'm trying to hold the cardboard, hold the camera, and then point to you what I'm talking about. I apologize. So I want that to lay in there like that. And this, again, the gap isn't as big on this side, but I'll try and bend that up as much as possible. The steel I'm using is only 1/8 inch, so it'll be oh my gosh, sorry, I can't talk tonight. I apologize. It'll allow it to flex a little bit to where if I tap it over there, it'll bend to it. So. And why I tried to make this template to where I like making them out of cardboard, so it has some bend, so I can do that. That way, if I tried to make it straight, and if I wanted it to be, if I measured right to the bottom of this plate, and I measured it straight, and then by the time I'd go to bend it over, even though it's a little bit, as you can see, there's going to be a gap. And yes, you can weld that, but I'd rather and if I went to the bottom of that, I wouldn't leave enough. See how there's a different lip there? Because I wanted to cut all the shit metal out of the tower. That way we had our new stuff on good, clean metal. So we took out what we needed to take out to where it was good, solid metal again, and this is where we left us. So we are, I would say, we're a solid 2.25 inches from the frame rail up to where we had to take shit metal out. So it was just, maybe it wasn't as bad as, you know, it would have probably held up and it would have probably been fine, but with putting all this work and time into it, I wanted to make sure everything's going to be spot on, everything's going to be good, and we don't have to worry about a single thing. So if we're putting this much time into it, we might as well do it the right way. So that's where we're at. That is super crooked. Shit. I got stuff to do. You gotta go.